OK, but first, the government will this week remove all self-isolation requirements for fully vaxxed Kiwi travellers. But could this spark a massive brain drain of our skilled young workers seeking out greener pastures? Joining me now for more on that is independent economist Tony Alexander. Tony, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, Melissa.
So what is the likelihood that we will see a brain drain?
Probably not in the very short term. I think the focus on people is obviously going to be the Kiwis coming into the country. So a pretty strong net gain, I'd suggest, over the next few weeks, maybe out towards 3 months or so. But once we get colder in New Zealand, naturally we're going to be thinking about, I'd like to go somewhere warmer. And then, of course, I think young people are going to be looking at interest rates going up in New Zealand, whereas they may not have gone up in Australia. So for those thinking about buying a house, getting a mortgage. And of course, all someone has to do is compare the wage rate you're getting in New Zealand with what you can get in Australia, where labour demand is very strong. And it's what we Kiwis have done over the generations. I think we're going to go through one of those periods where we'll mainly hop off to Australia.
Right. So do you think are we talking about young people on their OEs, or are we actually talking people who perhaps had some career experience that will be looking for better living conditions?
Yeah, I think it's that second group there. Certainly there's 2 years worth of OE to catch up on, but I can't help but think that maybe is more a story for next year and the year after, when I guess all of us can see that conditions across in Europe are going to be a bit better than clearly they are at the moment. I'm pretty much talking about the next couple of years. A lot of people looking to build up a nest egg, as again we've done over the generations. We say to ourselves, I'm going to work in the mining industry or whatever in Australia for 3 to 5 years, make a nest egg and then come back. Well, there's 650,000 or so Kiwis in Australia who made the decision not to come back. So that's what I'm talking about, a labour market driver.
Yeah, because that's more worrying. I guess young people who want to go and do their OEs, that's not necessarily a bad thing because they go away and get experience and usually bring it back to New Zealand. But if it's those perhaps families who have some skills and experience behind them already, that, I guess, is what could then lead to a brain drain. Is that right?
Well, yes, and of course the impact's going to be felt not just in terms of the rate of growth in our economy overall being a bit less than would otherwise be the case. When we get net migration numbers being negative, in fact, we're already minus 4,000 over the past year. That's just going to reinforce some of the pullback in the housing market, so house prices falling a little bit further. But the big impact, of course, is going to be on employers. Already they're having record degrees of difficulty in finding both skilled and unskilled people. And I know, we're going to get some migrants coming into New Zealand to offset that. But of course, you've got integration issues to deal with. The government, which is going to deliberately suppress the number of people on low wages coming into New Zealand. Businesses in this country have definitely got a big challenge on how they manage their business going forward. And for many of them, the answer is going to be produce less output than they have in the past.
Should the government be suppressing those low-wage earners from coming into New Zealand? Is that good for the economy?
Well, it's not good for the economy in terms of more resources tend to be better. But of course, there's more in play here than just the economy. There's the fact that although our economy has been nicely deregulated and growing very strongly since the early 1990s, and the unemployment rate was 3.4% in 2007 and 3.2% now, we still see less than optimal outcomes in health, housing, education, incomes for large groups in New Zealand. So I think the government has logically made the conclusion that a good free economy isn't delivering the societal benefits that we all want for everybody in the country. So they're looking to apply a bit of tough love to businesses and encourage them, as it were, to hire these low-skilled and maybe low-motivated people as well. Going to be pretty challenging.
In the short term, businesses are going to have an issue where they're having to close temporarily or sometimes even permanently because their staff are getting COVID. But now that the borders are open, people are going to want to travel again, or certainly Kiwis, because they can come back in isolation-free. So are businesses now going to have even more disruption where if their staff aren't off because of COVID, they're off because of holiday?
Yeah, well, that's going to be the thing. My warning to businesses has been: don't be thinking the opening of the borders is all it's all go now, and everybody's going to be happy, and you're going to start making a great level of sales, etc. Definitely, with the Omicron wave running through, it's going to be pretty challenging for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks. But the bigger problem is simply going to be staff going to Australia. And as I've been around the country a bit over the past 4 to 6 weeks, I keep coming across businesses that say many of their staff are actively talking about doing it, and just people I know generally, their kids are looking at going offshore. And again, why not? I did it back in 1984 for a couple of years. I think a new generation is going to undergo that experience.
And is it attractive in Australia in terms of jobs available, house prices?
Well, definitely you've got lower house prices, lower cost of living, far higher incomes, a greater range of industries, and some that are growing absolutely tremendously. The renewables sector, for instance, they're starting to develop their space industry. If you like making missiles, I understand they're setting up an industry there, and nuclear submarine technology. You just have to get used to, shall we say, slightly more racist attitudes, and you better get used to sheep jokes as well, because you're going to get the same one over and over again, no matter how many years you live in Australia as a Kiwi.
Independent economist Tony Alexander, thanks for your time this morning.